everyone. Today I am so excited to be talking to author Elise Hooper and her newest book, and she's going to hold it up because I have it on audio, is called The Other Alcott. My gosh, Elise, I was so excited when you agreed to talk to me because I wanted to talk about this book so much, okay? Because who doesn't love the Alcotts? Like, who in my age group does not
that's
love?
what I've been hoping for.
Yeah, exactly. That's what you were hoping for. I read Little Women, I don't know how many times, just like everybody else. I don't think anybody knows a count.
Yeah,
But I'm so
right.
happy that you did it on May. I mean, I want to hear about your journey to May because after reading the book, I know there's got to be one.
There is. There is. So when I started this book, I thought I was going to be writing, honestly, about Louisa. I mean, she is the figure we all know. She is the famous woman of history. And when I started researching, and there is so much about her,
Right.
that was actually kind of the problem. She documented her life so extensively through diaries and letters and her books and her essays that there was really no room for imagination or to create her voice. It is a very compelling voice that is already established.
Right.
So, and the other part of this,
Right.
of the other part of the challenge was she had, when Little Women became published in 1868, after many years of wanting to become a success, she finally reached that point because it was truly an overnight success. Her health had deteriorated to the point that she was largely housebound. She did do some traveling, but she really spent the rest of her life kind of dealing with some health issues and writing more books to satisfy her fans. And I think she also had sort of a fear of ever being poor again. So there wasn't really a compelling story for me to write about a woman who sits around and writes all day. So I remembered back to when I was a girl and spent so much time visiting Orchard House because I grew up right outside of Concord, Mass. And I remembered back to the little bedroom in the back of the house where May's sketches are on the walls. And I thought back to that sister and I wanted to know more about her. And that's really when the story opened up. Because the truth is, May Alcott led a very adventurous, interesting life, and she was a real trailblazer in her own right. But her story is largely lost to history because she wasn't the prolific journal writer, letter writer that her sister was. She's been a little bit lost in her sister's shadow. So through all of her sister's writing, I was able to piece together really a timeline of May's life and figure out where she was more or less when. And then I went and did use the few letters she wrote, and also these biographies and memoirs and letters and art by lots of other women who were a part of her little community in Boston and later in Europe. And I was able to assemble a story of what these women were facing and what their fears were, their concerns, their dreams. And so that's really when May's story came to life for me, when I was able to kind of triangulate in through all these different sources on the life of an artist in the 1870s, the life of a woman artist, I should say, in the 1870s.
Yeah, which, when you think about, first of all, I did not know that Little Women came out so, I didn't realize it was a success immediately. I didn't realize that she experienced that success so immediately. And her family, because that doesn't happen very often, especially back then. That did not happen,
I know. Absolutely. She was the true overnight success, and immediately she had fans that were crazy in some ways, that would lurk around her yard, that would come knock on the door. At one point, Skidmore College hired her, asked her to come down to be a speaker. By the time she got to the college, she had lost her voice because of her health problems. So they told her to just rotate on stage a couple of times, and that would satisfy the audience.
Wow.
And it did. I mean, that's how big she was at the time. She did not even need to say anything. She could just turn around and her fans went wild.
Yeah. And you have 2 daughters, don't you? Do you have 2 daughters?
I do. And I couldn't have written this without them.
Because I don't have any sisters, but I have 2 daughters. I have 6 children, but my 2 daughters are in the middle of my children, and they're 4 years apart.
Right.
And my younger daughter was an elite gymnast. Okay. But I think because she was successful in her thing, it was like my older daughter kind of took the mothering of her and her success. But in this case, because I was really looking into the sister thing, in this case, it's Louisa. She's the older, she's the older sister. And so May is constantly in her shadow. And there's 8 years between them.
Correct.
Yeah. So.
Yes. I mean, I don't have any sisters either. Yeah. So I learned a lot from watching my girls, and they have such a strong bond for the most part until they don't. And then those fraught moments are also really instructive. But I think there's something very special about sisterhood that isn't like maybe any other sibling bond.
I think
and so I've become a little obsessed with it, to be honest.
I can imagine because, my daughters call each other all the time. They're very close. They're in their 20s now. Okay. So they're very close. And like, I'll be talking, like I'll try to call one, busy. Try to call the other one, busy. I'm like, I know they're talking. Like, and there's nothing that comes, it's like, oh, it's mom, whatever. Anyway.
I know. It's, again, I think it's such a close relationship, but it's a complicated one. There can be, some of that mothering involved or some competition. I really have found it to be fascinating. And so I, in the course of writing this novel, did, to a certain degree, I did exaggerate the tension between them. To the best of my historical research, there was never a long spell of estrangement between them. Okay. But with that said, their letters and journals do reveal certain tensions between them. And when I uncovered that Louisa was a chronic letter burner and went back and rewrote portions of her diaries to make their life seem more rosy as she became famous, I kind of felt like that was my in to create a sister relationship that felt very authentic to me and in all of its complexity.
Was it true, the part, and I don't do spoilers, even though we kind of know what happened, even when it's historical fiction, I still found out a lot of stuff, okay, so I don't want to go there. But the part about Louisa always wanting, the fact that they were trading back and forth, were they trading back and forth to take care of their parents?
Yes.
They were?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And it was in that correspondence that I found some of the tension, because Louisa would write in letters, May's had her fun, time to come home. She has, I've been working too hard. And so Louisa really kind of did resent that May's health remained robust and that she could lead this much more exploratory sort of path out into the world when Louisa was much more confined to her own residence. So I think that Louisa, there was sort of a controlling thing. Like, I think she wanted to control May to a certain degree. And I also think jealousy. And she was also very paranoid about staff finding, she was always very worried about maids and cooks and people kind of revealing her life to the outside world. So even when they had reached a point where they could have afforded quite a bit of help, Louisa resisted that at all costs because she didn't want strangers in her house. And she was very tight with the people who were close with her and didn't want to reveal her life to the outside world as much as possible.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because, so Louisa's famous. She's got this like celebrity status, if you want to say that, for the late 1800s. Right. But she's stuck in this room because she's got people that want her to just write, just write and write and write. Okay. And then, so there's May who's doesn't have money, doesn't, and is off in Europe, like exploring and painting and, doing all this fun stuff. Probably Louisa saw it as fun. you know, like, because she kept saying, you've done enough
Yes.
playing, so
Yes.
she was probably like, you know, I'm done with your playing in Europe, you know, like, come home. So it is interesting
Right.
that how different. So she doesn't have any money, but she's off, you know, having fun. And then Louisa has all this money, she doesn't even know how to spend it because she's just writing, you know, she can't even, it's crazy.
I know. It's the real irony, unfortunately, of Louisa May Alcott's story, is that right when she reached a point of success, she really couldn't, in some ways, enjoy it to the way she wanted to.
I liked how she had kind of like a fan club, sort of. Like, she'd get letters and people would tell her what they want her to write about. And, you know, it was like the ultimate, you know, first fan club, you know?
No, absolutely. She did. She got so much fan mail, and really the pressing question from all of her readers was, who were all of her characters going to marry? And that always made her so frustrated because she really wanted American girls to think more for themselves beyond marriage.
Right.
So that
Right.
her letters largely frustrated her, and
Right.
Anna answered most of them. Her oldest sister did most of the fan mail correspondence.
Right. Which I didn't even realize that Anna was the oldest. I thought she was after Louisa. So that was interesting to me to place her too.
Right.
So I love that. Do you remember that
Right.
Friends episode?
Right. Yes, she is old. She is Megan.
Yeah. Do you remember that Friends episode with Rachel reading Little Women?
Oh, I don't, and I love Friends. I'm gonna have to figure that out.
Yeah, you have just type it into YouTube, like Rachel with Little Women or something. It's funny.
Okay.
She gives a funny little.
Okay.
That just tells you how
I will.
popular it is, though. I mean, it was in a Friends episode. I mean, that just.
I know. I know. Yeah, I think actually in the latest I think it's the latest or recent Vanity Fair, Shonda Rhimes, in that final interview at the very end of the magazine, Shonda Rhimes is interviewed, and she mentions that her favorite literary character of all time is Jo March. So that kind of gave me that was funny to see the other day.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about, right, this is your first novel, published novel, right?
It is. It is. Yes.
That was just crazy for me. Like, what is your, because I don't know, because I can usually tell. And I went back and I'm like, oh my God, this is our first novel. Like, and it's amazing. And you're getting all kinds of great reviews. I mean, it's been out for a very short period of time. And, you know, so how do you feel about that? I mean, the success of it.
Wow, it's been a whirlwind. It's actually been out for a month as of today, because it came out September 5th, and today is October 5th. And it's amazing. I love that women are, and some men too, but definitely for the most part, the readers I would say are women. I love, of course, that women are connecting with the Alcotts again. And I think that Little Women is sort of a cultural currency that we all have and hold dear to us. But I've also been very touched at how women are seeing some of themselves in May and seeing that challenge to sometimes, if people tell you can't do something, that tenacity that May has, and her willingness to really dig in and work, even when she's getting sort of some negative reviews in the beginning of the novel about her artwork.
Right.
She is a real optimistic soul, and I think people love that. And so I've loved hearing readers talk about how they now want to try doing something that has eluded them up till now. They have a goal that they would like to shoot for, and I think that's amazing. I mean, that has exceeded anything I could have ever dreamed that readers would find in this novel. And so it's been exciting. It's been wonderful to connect with old friends. I've had a couple of my old English teachers reach out and get in touch. So it's just been a lovely way to make new friends with readers and to connect with some older friends. So I'm really overwhelmed with gratitude for the success this book seems to be finding.
Yeah, I mean, you should be, because it is an amazing book. I want anybody who loves Little Women, like, you need to read this book, because if you love them, which most people do, like you said, I mean, it's such a different take, and it does give Louisa a voice, but it gives May a voice. And I was thinking the same thing when I was reading it, because I was like, you know what, I need to, you need to press in a little bit. Like, she tried so hard and to get her craft noticed and to, be separate. And I do think that it's a book of hope. And, even though she was using her money sometimes, she was really trying to make it on her own without using Louisa's money. And,
She was. She was. Yes, she was. And she was trying to find a real work-life balance that eludes so many of us still. And she was just a real dreamer. I mean, I think Louisa was too, absolutely. But I think there's so many wonderful books out right now with the title, with the word daughter or wife in the title. And I love these books, but it's been very exciting to find a story where a woman's been living in the shadows of another woman, not her husband, not her lover, not her father, but another woman, a sister at that. So that's been a really exciting thing about this story to me.
Yeah, and even for like my daughters, now they're both in their 20s, but think about in the late 1800s, like what these women really did. It was unusual. This was not usual, okay? Most of their peers were out married, having baby after baby. I mean, the fact that even that her parents had the foresight of saying they might do something different and encouraging them to do something different, that's unusual for that time period, and I always try to tell my daughters, like, to go do something, go be, don't get trapped in the whole family, love your family, do that, but then also have another outlet. And I was, that's what I love the most about this, is that, they end up finding, like I said, I don't want to spoil it, but they end up finding their way, but just that they had their parents' encouragement to find their voice and to find it in, one doing writing, another one doing painting, which was just not a usual thing for a woman to be doing at that time. She even had a hard time finding somebody to help her paint,
Absolutely. Absolutely. The Alcotts were a fascinating family. All of them, really. Certainly Bronson and Abigail, the two parents, have a really interesting history as well. So this was a very unusual family for the era, in that the parents did encourage these four girls to really to kind of march to the beat of their own drummer, for lack of a better phrase. And so I think each of them did in their own way. I do think that Anna, the oldest one, leads the most what we would call sort of conventional life, where she marries and has a couple children. But, her husband dies when they've been not married for very long. And so she never remarries. She remains a widow. And with the support of her sister Louisa, she is able to really kind of support her boys, and she really helps Louisa out in many ways, and May. I mean, she becomes kind of the real anchor of the family as far as kind of maintaining a real domestic life for all of them. So I think that they are such an interesting kind of mix of both traditional and really progressive and unconventional roles from start to finish.
Yeah. So you've lived this. How long did it take you to write this book?
So from start to finish, from when it came out on the September 5th, it had been about 4 years. Wow. And I would say about 9 months were spent deep in research and kind of trying to find the story, a few false starts with writing, and then a real year and a half of pretty intense writing and revision. And then I was very fortunate where I was able to sign with a literary agent pretty quickly, and also she sold the novel very quickly to William Morrow HarperCollins. So it then spent about a year and a half in the production process in the publishing world. So 4 years really from start to finish. But the story had also been percolating in my brain for decades, really ever since my youth, when I was just really fascinated with these sisters, between reading Louisa's books and going to their home and trying to figure out what these four characters who I loved had in common with maybe the real women they were based on. Because I had my suspicions that they were a little more complicated in real life than Little Women would have us believe. Right. And fortunately, I was right. Yes. They did have pretty complicated relationships and characters. So it's been a dream project for me, really, of bringing so many interests of my life together.
Right. Well, and I was telling you that I listened to it on Audible. You have to thank this woman that did it. I know you probably
Yes.
didn't have much to do with it, but her accents are dead on. Like, I knew which character she was doing. I knew, like, she was one of the better, and I wanted to look up her name and I forgot to, but you could send her off a little email.
It's Cassandra Campbell.
Yes.
She's amazing. She has done a bunch of books that I love, like The Lilac Girls. I think she did The Women in the Castle. And she did The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks, which is amazing to hear all her different voices. She is very talented. There's no doubt.
It's a true art form, what she does. I mean, because she takes
Absolutely.
on those characters, the men, the girls, whatever character the accents, the French accent, the English accent, like she did it all. It was crazy. It was so good.
I know. It's a totally different experience to listen to her. I agree. It's wonderful.
Yeah. So what is next?
So I'm deep in revision right now on a second novel that will also be coming out with HarperCollins in late 2018. And it's about Dorothea Lange, who was a documentary photographer of the 30s and 40s. And her work, she's best known for her work she did during the Great Depression. She took thousands, I think, of black and white photos that now live in the Library of Congress. And she was documenting migrant workers. So if you've ever seen the old version of the Grapes of Wrath, the old movie, her photographs are often said to have inspired much of the cinematography of that movie. And she is an amazing woman who also went in pursuit of her own creative voice and really had to show a great deal of tenacity to live through a very challenging period in our history. And when she was eventually fired by the government at the end of the 30s for being too difficult to work with, difficult in being that she knew what she wanted and she was one of the only women on staff, she then is rehired during World War II to document the internment of the Japanese Americans, to show how peaceful that was. And of course, she was appalled by what she was seeing. And so her photographs were subversive, and the government fired her and then impounded the photos again for decades. Wow. So it's a really amazing story, yes, of a really courageous woman, and I'm really excited about it. I love it, and I've been learning so much through my research and writing it. So it's been another dream project. I'm getting so lucky.
Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait to read it. I mean, like I said, your writing is unbelievable. It's
Thank
so
you.
good, and I hope you just continue to find these people that have such an interesting life that you can bring, that you would have never thought of, and like to bring them to life for us, because you do a really good job with that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. You are just one more example of these amazing people I've met along the way. So thank you.
Oh, can you show everybody that cover again? Because it is beautiful. I love the cover of this book.
Yes.
Oh, it's so captured.
It is beautiful, and I can take notes. This is all the beautiful creative minds at William Morrow HarperCollins. They produced this beautiful cover and presented it to me, and I was really speechless. I really, again, got so lucky because it's a wonderful cover.
Yeah, don't you love the way they turned her around? Because it's like a faceless character. I don't know. Like, even though we do have a picture of her, we do know what she looks like if you look it up. But just that she's this faceless person looking out over. I was like, oh. When I saw the cover, it drew me to it. But then after I read it, I loved it even more. So.
I know. I love that I think it embodies her adventurous spirit, in that she is the Alcott who leaves Concord, Mass. and in Boston and goes off into this broader world to find her way. So I think it really speaks to that. I mean, she doesn't need to be holding paintbrushes or anything like that for us to get the sense of who this woman was.
Right. I love it. Well, I'm going to put all your links at the bottom of this video so everybody can find you. And I hope everybody goes and reads your book, because I love it, and I want you to keep writing and keep giving us more stories.
I will. This
Okay.
is a dream job for me. So thank you so much. I appreciate it so much.
Well, hopefully we'll talk to you again when the other one comes out. So thank you so much for doing the video, and we'll talk to you soon.